It's finally here, the Helm Miyako. This hotly anticipated watch made its way from its maker to me here in Melbourne at a pace that felt like it was strapped to a sea cucumber and sent on its merry but meandering way. This is my second Helm watch. You may have come across my Vanuatu review previously, and whilst it offers similar quality, there are some significant differences. As you may or may not know, obtaining your own Helm used to be almost impossible without secret handshakes and a bit of luck. Matt at Helm changed this last year, and we now have a very civilized waitlist. And we're not talking a Rolex-style waitlist here, where you may or may not ever hear and you're completely in a dealer's hands. No, you enter your details on the website, and you can even check your place in the queue. When your number is up, you get 48 hours to pay, or your spot is transferred to the next in line. A fantastic system. I was lucky enough to get in early and bought my very own Miyako. If you're here, you may already be on the waitlist, or perhaps you're keen to. Should you bother? Is it worth the agonizing wait? What exactly does $375 buy you? Well, let's find out. If you know Helm and have owned or seen one, you know that they are incredibly solidly built, very much like some of the toughest watches in the world from Germany and Switzerland, but crucially at a price that is almost incomprehensible. For your money, you get a solid steel bracelet with a great clasp, a nylon strap, the option of buying additional leather straps at a very reasonable price, a tried and tested Miyota 9015 movement that's easy to service and cheap to replace, and offers a reasonable 42 hours power reserve. You get some of the best lume of any watch in the industry, you get a sapphire crystal with anti-reflective coating on the inside, and every single watch has been individually tested to 20 ATM or 200 meters. And that's tested in accordance with ISO 6425. In fact, every watch comes with a handwritten certificate. That said, the Miyako is a little different. The influence is from a Japanese island near the northeastern coast of Taiwan, which is a beautiful tropical paradise, ideal for snorkeling and freediving. That's a clue right there. Take the Vanuatu, that inspiration is from an area well known for wreck diving, whilst here we've got a slightly more non-hardcore inspiration. This means that we have 200 rather than 300 meter water resistance, which helps with the thickness and wear on your wrist. I wouldn't call it a dainty little dress watch, but at what I measure as 41.5 millimeters wide, it's ever so slightly smaller than previous models. I do want to mention that the website states 45mm width, including the hefty crown, so be aware of the difference there since the crown is quite large. The lug-to-lug of 47 is reasonable, but the 22mm lug width still means you have a fairly hefty and muscular watch. The domed sapphire crystal adds to the thickness, which comes in at just over 13.5mm. It says 15.5 on the site, but that is definitely underselling it with about 2mm. The weight including bracelet is 180 grams, so you will feel it. So let's dive into this watch face. I chose the black dial. There are two models which are only different in dial and bezel color. Blue is the other. Both have the old radium superluminova, more on that later, which means you have the Photina look that you may or may not love. To me, that light golden look works well on black, and I have no issue with it. There are some obvious influences both from divers of old and new that don't need to be mentioned here. I'm sure you can see those for yourself. But Helm have still found their own way. This is not a homage. The large Arabics at 12, 3, 6 and 9 are easy to read from a distance, as are the applied indices. One curious detail is the red line next to the date located at the 4:30 position. It seems to be there only to draw attention to that tiny date window. If there was an option to order the watch without the date window, I would have done so, but that is very much a subjective opinion. Date complications are useful, no doubt, but this is the smallest one I've ever seen. Also, I normally like a little color detail that adds visual interest, so I'll leave this one up to you to form an opinion about. Let me know in the comments perhaps. Unless you're going to call me names, then don't. Speaking of visual interest, there are a few more famous works of art out of Japan than the tsunami wave. We have a version of this wave engraved in a dial, and it is stunning. It's discreet enough to not be distracting and intricate enough to remind the wearer what inspired this piece. It is also replicated on a beautiful case back, which I'll cover shortly. The hands are large and easy to see, but what's extra interesting here is the second hand. It's an all-black affair with a cool ring counterweight. It's also a red-tipped syringe style that works well here to complement the red detail on the date. I like the decision to almost hide this, since there's already a bit going on here, so no need to visually overload one's beholder. Covering all this is a double-domed sapphire crystal with anti-reflective coating that is colorless. You won't get a bluish purple haze here. But what's extra interesting here is the bezel. The first time I saw a sapphire bezel was on a Melbourne Watch Company die model that you can also see here on my channel if you're interested. The bezel is made from stainless steel with a domed sapphire insert. It is a lovely effect and I like it very much. It makes this helm look and feel a little less that you could knock over a small building if you're not careful, like the other models. The coin edge makes it reasonably easy to grip, which is good. The 120 click bezel takes some muscle to wrestle. One thing I want to call out, the typeface color on the bezel is white, whilst the dial color is Photina. It's quite obvious when you first pick up the watch, and it's a detail that's not easy to pick up in the product photos. I've gotten used to it, but if I'm honest, I think they should be the same color. That said, it's much more obvious in artificial light. Outside in natural light, it is barely noticeable. The case is polished on the sides and brushed everywhere else. And again, much dressier than previous models. There are no over-the-top details anywhere, it's just a well-designed and beautiful case that meets the bezel well. It's a little reminiscent of some Seiko diver designs. It also has drilled lugs, which is wise. This could easily be a strap monster, particularly since it's less of an outright hardcore dive watch. The crown is a large cupcake for your fingers at 3, signed and very prominent. Again, a lovely vintage style with no crown guards, since you won't be diving in wrecks, remember, so there's nothing to worry about here when knocking it off against any protruding old hinges. The bracelet is true to form, excellent. How they can continue to deliver these awesome bracelets at a budget is beyond me. This easily compares to pieces at 10 times the price. A friend amusingly mentioned that a new bracelet for the Blancpain 50 Fathoms, which I'm obviously not bringing up for any particular reason, costs 8,000 Australian dollars. 8,000. The buckle and clasp is milled and not as hulking as the one I had on my Vanuatu. It could perhaps have more micro adjustments than a 2. I managed to get a perfect fit for me on the bracelet, but one more hole wouldn't have hurt, and I can already envisage other reviewers mentioning this. Perhaps the only bit of feedback I'd have is that 22mm width is hefty. It'd be interesting to see what a 20mm would look like on this style of watch. You also get a nylon strap included, and I opted for a third option of a $30 leather strap, which is excellent for the money and also discounted to $25 since I purchased it with the watch. However, none of these tapers like the bracelet, so they do look massive on wrist. So before we have a look at the back, let's check out this Lume. Again, even with this old radium style, it's once again very impressive. I love a glowing bezel as much as the next guy. Every time I see Lume in the dark, I'm reminded of my first watch as a young boy and being fascinated by how something could glow in the dark. I still prefer to think it's got something to do with Gandalf rather than science. All Helm watches have cool embossed details on their case backs, but this is the best one yet, and don't even argue with me. Just look at these awesome waves. I love them. Sure, it'll be a dirt and grit magnet and would need regular cleaning, but who cares when it's this good? In addition to this lovely detailing, we again have a proud note on the ISO 6425 certification. I'll link in the description on what that actually means if you're interested. So is this another home run for Helm? I'm hoping that this review has helped you with that decision for yourself. I think it's incredible value for money, and it doesn't come across as brutal as the other models. It's a very comfortable watch to wear on the large wrist, and it's attractive, to my eyes at least. My main bits of feedback is to do with the different shades of text color on the bezel and dial, and a date window that I think objectively is way too small to be useful to anybody, regardless of eyesight. Should that stop you from obtaining one? Absolutely not. I'll feel more at home on my wrist than the Vanuatu. The slight vintage feel works for me, and the many little details such as the engravings, that sapphire bezel look, and the outstanding lume makes this a no-brainer purchase. So get on that waitlist as soon as you can, and try not to check your position every day. I dare you. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.